How are you doing, Chattanooga? You're listening to all new Nooga Radio and NoogaRadio.com here on 92.7 FM. The show is Clutch with Keon Rose. I'm Keon Rose, and I'm joined by my youngest brother, Cade Rose, who's been helping me untangle the mess that is the NFL playoff scenario. As the only people who are nerdy enough to work through that with you. Well, the only people nerdy enough to work through that with you and not own something along the lines of a 20-sided die or something like that. No Dungeons and Dragons over here.
No.
Yet.
It's gotten easier as the weeks have progressed, though. It's been a much stated year of parody, but the cream is rising, as they say.
As they say, there's only one more week left to rise. So we've got a situation with the Titans and the Bills and the Ravens and the Chargers. There's a gigantic playoff scenario involving all of them, right? So we're going to talk about that. There's been a bit of a storm brewing with Dez Bryant and the Dallas Cowboys because he's not happy. They're not necessarily happy with him. There's almost no doubt that the Cowboys are going to look to try and restructure Dez's deal to pay him less money because he doesn't produce like an elite receiver. And the question is Dez Bryant still worth the headache? Is he still worth the trouble? Because you know that Dez Bryant is not going to take the idea of him making less money sitting down. Dez Bryant is a guy that held out for more money once upon a time, and he deserved it then, and I don't think he deserves it now. So we'll get into all of that. We've got some college hoops to talk to you about. Tennessee Volunteers are off to a pretty good start, hanging around with the likes of Kentucky and Auburn. Auburn, by the way, 11-1 start there under Bruce Pearl. So that's pretty good. I tell the story all the time because I almost met Bruce Pearl, and I was very upset. I almost got to interview Bruce Pearl during a basketball game. He went to Chattanooga State to recruit a player, and I was on the broadcast, and apparently he wasn't allowed to come on. So yeah, pretty much that is my near brush with fame. That's the closest I've ever been to talking to a big time college basketball coach. So you're listening to Clutch with Keon Rose here on Nooga Radio, NoogaRadio.com. I should point out, by the way, that we stream all of our shows. Like we are your number one social media platform. We stream all of our shows for you live on YouTube, live on Facebook, all of our local programming. If you want to take a look at what we look like, want to see the inside of the studio ever, just drop by. Just drop by the Facebook page or the YouTube page and look up Nooga Radio. You'll find us, and you'll have a good time. I promise. Well, I can't promise that because you could be a grump and just decide not to have a good time on purpose. But if you try to have a good time, you're going to have a good time. So before we get into all the NFL stuff, it's bowl season, and we're at the height of bowl season. We're at the point of bowl season where it's worth watching games because the games that are on are, in fact, pretty good games, right? That you get the earlier bowl games where you get a lot of bad teams, but now you're getting teams that are above 500. You're getting teams that are Division I schools. And last night, Texas played Missouri. Missouri used to be in the Big 12, and that's the storyline there. Is Missouri used to be in the Big 12 before they ran away from Texas because Texas decided they were going to be the vampire of the Big 12 and suck up all the money. And so nobody really wants to be in the Big 12 trying to compete with Texas and Oklahoma for attention. So Missouri ran away, and Texas A&M ran away. And I think rightfully so, because if you want to make a name for yourself, you go to the conference that has the conference network. You run from the conference that has the Longhorn network, right? Like the SEC network still shows Missouri games. The Longhorn network just shows the Longhorns. It seems a little bit unfair and a little bit lopsided. I understand why Missouri would run away. Missouri had a good year this year, by the way. They started off very slow, but once they got going, I think they rattled off, 7 games in a row. Drew Lock looks as good as he's ever been. But the Longhorns were able to contain him and contain them in a way that was a little bit surprising for a couple of reasons. One, the Longhorns have the 107th ranked pass defense in the nation, and Missouri, really explosive offense, especially that vertical attack. Drew Lock started the season. My man started the season throwing 7 touchdowns in a game. Like, he began the season with that kind of performance. and never really let up. Missouri never really slowed down. They continued to put points on the board. Their weakness was always being able to stop people. So the fact that they just scored 16 points against the Longhorns is a little bit surprising. But we had some good Drew Lock moments. And I think, by the way, that game is a very solid argument for why Drew Lock should go to the NFL. I mean, he's rough, and he could stay in college. But what else is he going to gain from being in college? Like, Drew Lock showed signs of potential. He had that one touchdown pass coming into the second half, right out of halftime. And it was a deep bomb. He saw his receiver beat a safety and a corner and just floated it over the top, dropped it right in the breadbasket. I was a huge fan of that play and a huge fan of Drew Lock in the game. I thought he made a number of very impressive throws that his receiver simply didn't hang on to. And there was something to be said about that. Like, how much more can you expect the guy to do? What else can you expect from Drew Lock? He's playing as well as he can play. And I think he's proven that he can play. I'd like to see him in the NFL, personally. Now, yes, again, he is rough, but Drew Lock shouldn't be the kind of quarterback that you draft and then try to start right away. But if he sits behind somebody for a few years, maybe Drew Lock is a competent backup. And who knows, maybe he's even a quality starter because he's able to make all the throws. I mean, I've seen it. He doesn't struggle throwing to the sidelines. He doesn't struggle throwing the ball deep. He's capable of that. He's a smart guy. So I figure, you know what? This guy can go to the NFL, and I don't think he's got anything else to gain playing at Missouri, where the talent level isn't as high as it needs to be. He's going to, return back to the SEC West and get whacked around for another season? Like, why? Why would you do that? Just get beaten up by Alabama and Auburn and Texas A&M for another year? No, just take it easy. Take the jump to the NFL. Hopefully you get drafted by a team with a quarterback on it already, or a team that doesn't mind waiting a little bit. And who knows, if your head coach winds up being Bruce Arians or somebody like that, you're going to learn a lot. So that's my take on that game. Missouri losing 33-16 to my Longhorns, like I told you they would yesterday. And we have some games happening tonight. There is some SEC action already on the board for the day. Texas A&M, or not for today, but for tomorrow, Texas A&M playing Wake Forest at 1. And by the way, we're going to do some picks today, some college football and some NFL picks today. But Texas A&M playing Wake Forest at 1. That's going to be a very interesting game. Wake Forest, by the way, is a 3-point favorite. So we've got some SEC games on tap. The SEC hasn't done too badly in the bowl season, but we have 2 bowl games that really, really matter. Georgia, Alabama, those are coming up. So you're listening to Clutch with Keon Rose here on Nooga Radio, noogaradio.com, 92.7 FM, and we stream on YouTube and Facebook as well. So now, Kate, I get to include you in the show. I was running through all the college stuff because I know you're here for this NFL action. You're here for this NFL action, and we've got a situation brewing. We got a wonderful situation brewing involving the Ravens and the Bills and the Chargers and the Titans. This playoff scenario is a little complicated. You mind unraveling some of this for us?
Yes, okay. So starting at the top of it, we have the current 5th seed, my Baltimore Ravens, who at 9-6, if they win against the Bengals, they'll just be in. And if they lose, if either the Titans or the Bills lose, then they'll still be able to make the playoffs. Then you have the Titans at the 6th seed who play the Jaguars, and if they win, they'll also be in. And if they lose, then they'll need both the Buffalo Bills and the Los Angeles Chargers to lose. You have next the Chargers, who they need to win, and they also need some help. They need the Titans to lose so that they can take their spot as the 6th seed. And then, really, on a prayer at the bottom, we've got the Buffalo Bills, who not only win, but of the Ravens, Chargers, and Titans, 2 of those teams need to lose so that the Buffalo Bills can steal a spot and punch a ticket to the postseason.
Well, so Ravens win and they're in. Titans win and they're in. The Bills need a loss from either Titans or need a loss from Titans and Chargers.
Yes.
Because, of course, the infamous Nathan Peterman game in which the Bills decided, for whatever reason, that Nathan Peterman was a better decision to start than Tyrod Taylor. And Nathan Peterman threw, 5 interceptions in that game? 5 picks?
5 interceptions in one half. And then
wow!
They mercifully sat him.
Wow! That seems impossible. I've never seen that before in my life. Okay, yeah, no, Nathan Peterman threw 5 interceptions in one half, and they were not able to ever be in that game against the Chargers. And oh, look, now you're one game, you have a tiebreaker with them, and that's the one game that you needed to win. Had you won it, you would have a better record than they did. And had you lost any other games, then you would have the tiebreaker, and they would not. So, that's a little crazy that they decided to go do that. Tennessee fans know Nathan Peterman washed out of Tennessee, recreated himself at Pitt, and got a chance to be on an NFL stage where he threw 5 interceptions. So, yeah, I just think that this thing got just really overly complicated, but it does get less complicated. Titans win, you get in. Ravens win, you get in. Now, I'm a little more confident, and I'm sure you are as well, of the Ravens' ability to just win and get in. It is the Bengals that they are playing, led by the illustrious Andy Dalton.
Yes, the Bengals have been really up and down all of the season. Recently, unless you count the Lions game, mostly down.
Mostly down.
And
it's true.
Of course, we opened our season with a shutout win against them. So
yeah, the Bengals haven't been able to move the ball offensively, in large part because you know what their game plan is. Andy Dalton drops back. He pretends to look at other receivers. He flings the ball over to A.J. Green. That's the Andy Dalton play. That's what he does. That's how he does it. And it's very predictable. You can defend it. Anybody can defend it. Friends could probably defend it. So, yeah, no, I'm not worried about them, but I am more worried about the Titans. The Titans need to win and get in, and they're playing a motivated Jacksonville Jaguars team. The Jaguars are trying to be able to see if they can secure that first-round bye. It's very, very valuable to be able to rest your players and to be able to have home field against whoever your next opponent would be. I know that the Jaguars would like to have that a lot, especially when you consider that they're a physical team, they're a defensive team. That extra time off would help them recover, would help them. This is not a team that plays with finesse. They don't rely on anybody offensively necessarily because your quarterback is Blake Bortles. How much can you rely on anybody anyway? So, yeah, your Jacksonville, you're very highly coveting this, and your Tennessee, you need to win this game to get in. And I feel really bad because Tennessee should have just won last week against the Rams. They had a good look at the Rams. That game was closer than anybody anticipated it would be. I know the Rams have a lot of firepower. I know that Todd Gurley is a handful to contain. But if you have a team like that on the ropes, you've got to finish it off. And they didn't finish it off, and now they've got to play an even tougher team to score on. I mean, good luck.
I mean, it's going to be real tough for them because, like, that Rams game, it felt like their one chance to really steal one. They blocked an extra point. They got a fumble recovery for a touchdown. They were staying in the game to the point where, like, they actually managed to score a couple touchdowns that put them every time in the lead and forced the Rams to have to answer back. But they just weren't able to either hold down or then close out with a score at the end of the game. And now they're facing a somewhat banged up, but still very highly rated Jacksonville defense.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's not a great matchup for a not particularly powerful, this year anyways, offense that Tennessee has had.
I wish Mike Mularkey would open up the game a little bit more, like extend this vertical attack. That's what the NFL is now. It's like people trying to market through email chains in a world where you need to be marketing on social media. You've got to figure out where everything is progressing and look toward the future. They're not looking toward the future. And so, yeah, I doubt it. And I got a pessimistic prognosis for you Titans fans. I honestly think the Chargers slip in. I don't think the Titans get it done. And I don't think the Bills get it done either. And I think the Chargers sneak in. And so, yeah, I'm worried. I'm worried about the Titans. We're going to do field work for you. Me and Kate are going to the Titans game this Sunday. We're going to watch that game. We are going to be in the cold, and we're going to be in the cold watching football for you. We're going to tell you firsthand what it is that we saw, as the Titans battle to get into the postseason. You're listening to Clutch with Keon Rose here on all new Nooga Radio and NoogaRadio.com on 92.7 FM. By the way, we got on the NFC side of things a foot race. It's a slow foot race. It might be the saddest foot race in the history of foot races. You've got the Falcons trying to get into the postseason despite having what appears to be a down year. Now, upon further review, it was actually a pretty good year. But it was a down year compared to what they were able to produce last year, where they just looked like a buzzsaw. They didn't look like anybody could walk into Atlanta and beat Atlanta. And then this year, they've had ups and downs. They've had to struggle. They've had to battle and scratch. But they've more or less have put themselves in a position to be a third NFC South team representing in the playoffs. And they got one more team to beat out. That is the Seattle Seahawks. The Seahawks also looking to try and see if they can take that last spot because they've had a struggle of a year as well. Missing a lot of pieces, not having a running game necessarily, missing Cam Chancellor and Richard Sherman. They're at this point, they're the Legion of Boo. There's no boom there anymore, but they're still a little scary, but they're not really scary. Bobby Wagner's got half a leg. Bobby Wagner's playing football with just his torso. So what I want to know is, who do you think gets it? Seahawks or Falcons?
If I had to choose one, I guess I would go with the Falcons just because they've got the edge to where if both teams win, the Falcons will win because they have that direct tiebreaker against the Seahawks from earlier in the season. And also just because they have a really high ceiling, the Panthers do, who the Falcons play, but I just haven't seen a level of consistency that you need to where if the Panthers have a down game, which they very well could, I think the Falcons will be able to take them. Like if they have a performance anywhere near what happened when they had to really squeak by the Buccaneers last week, I think the Panthers will probably lose.
I agree with that. First off, I think the Falcons are the much more motivated football team. When you are this is an elimination game for them. So they're already fighting for their playoff lives. Vegas has them as the 4-point favorites. I kind of agree. They're the home team. And so far as the team with the more dynamic playmakers, I mean, you could go back and forth on this one. I think Cam is the most dynamic playmaker in the game. But I feel like Julio Jones is due for a big game. He's been off for a couple of games. I don't know if we've seen the best of Julio Jones. And I also feel like the Panthers don't play the kind of defense that is conducive to stopping Julio when Julio is ready to get going. And I agree with you that I think the Falcons are going to ultimately get in. Like you said, if they both win, the Falcons have the head-to-head tiebreaker. I like Seattle against Arizona, but I also watched Seattle offensively struggle against Dallas. Now, they still won because Dallas kept giving them the ball. But I saw a team that really struggled, had 28 points of total offense coming out of the first half last week. Just disgusting. And so, yeah, I'm looking at it and going, okay, I honestly believe that Seattle could possibly struggle here and maybe even trip up against Arizona. I doubt it, but it's possible. So, yeah, I'm going to go with Atlanta. I'm going to give Atlanta the edge, same as you on that front, because it's just too much to ask Russell Wilson to take an entire football team, carry them the whole way. He's not getting a whole lot of help. I'm watching Russell Wilson play, and I'm absolutely amazed at what this guy is doing. I mean, when you look at the list of MVP candidates, he's got to be on your short list because of how bad they've looked and how he's been able to keep them in games, make big plays. There's no running game there. There's barely an offensive line there. They have wide receivers, but they don't have the best wide receivers. I'm not sure because they have tiny wide receivers. And I always question teams that win football games with tiny wide receivers. Doug Baldwin is not very big. And who's the other guy that they rely on? Lockett.
Yes.
Tyler Lockett. He's not very big either. And I question teams that have tiny wide receivers. I've always questioned the Indianapolis Colts, even when they did have Andrew Luck, because T.Y. Hilton's small. T.Y. Hilton's my height, and I'm 5'10". Like, how are you not getting smoked every time someone hits you? I have no idea. But it's tough to win when you've got all of those disadvantages, and I just believe in Atlanta that much more. That being said, Atlanta has been absolutely unknowable this year.
This is true. I think the only major thing that makes me want to bet on them is the fact that Carolina, they gave up a lot of big plays against Jameis Winston and the Tampa Bay offense that they have the pieces, and we sort of thought we'd see more from them overall this year, but we really haven't. But then in that game, like, they were able to make a lot of plays. So I think they're not going to be doing much better against Cleveland.
Well, I don't think so either. I completely agree. You're listening to all new Nooga Radio and NoogaRadio.com here on 92.7 FM. Make sure to check us out on Facebook and YouTube. We're streaming all of our videos live. Next.
The Tennessee Valley's news talk leader, Nooga Radio, digital FM 95.3 HD4 and 92.7 FM. 3, 2, 1. Chattanooga Radio, digital FM 95.3 HD4, 92.7 FM's news now.
31-year-old Corey Sanders was blown away on Fairmont Avenue. He was rushed to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries, and the Violent Crimes Bureau is on the case. In one of the stranger cases of road rage, Eastridge police say that a man hit someone's house with his car, and the angry homeowner came out with a knife and stabbed the driver. Eastridge police say that the victim is going to be okay, and the suspect was extradited to Eastridge from Walker County. Gunshots rang out at College Hill Courts, Chattanooga's hotbed of violence, and 2 men were gunned down. The Violent Crimes Bureau trying to track down the would-be killer. One man shot in the gut, the other shot in the leg, both taken to the hospital, expected to survive. Good news in Walker County, they paid off $7.5 million in loans early, right before the deadline on January the 1st. One more step on the way to paying off $70 million in debt. Russell Stroud, Nooga Radio News, now.
The Tennessee Valley's news talk leader, Nooga Radio, digital FM 95.3 HD4 and 92.7 FM.
Sam Jordan, News Talk 92.7 Sports Now. Tennessee added a 14th member to its 2018 early signing class on Wednesday after one of the nation's top junior college recruits, Jameer Johnson, announced he'll join the Vols next year. He signed his letter of intent last week during the early signing period, but waited to announce his decision until he was with family during the holiday season. The Cleveland Holiday Tournament has a lot of games on tap for this Thursday. Hampton will take on Watertown in girls action along with Sequoia and Union County. In boys action, Siegel will take on Hickson, Sequoia at Union County. Scores from yesterday's games include Walker Valley shellacking Hickson 70-40, and it was Cleveland knocking off Sequoia 75-58. The Jones Fighting Tigers out of Orlando, Florida defeated Siegel 55-45, and defending champion Clarksville Northeast rolled past Union County 69-51. Sam Jordan, News Talk 92.7 Sports Now.
The Tennessee Valley's news talk leader, Nooga Radio, digital FM 95.3 HD4 and 92.7 FM.
Oh man, rush. I've got to get stuff for the party. Where can I go that's going to give me a wide selection of beer, wines, and spirits? Oh, I got it. I'll go to Harry's Wine and Spirits, Signal Mountain. Maybe East Brainerd Wine and Spirits in East Brainerd. I could go to Riley's Wines and Spirits in Hickson. Wow, look at the huge selection in here. Look at these great prices. Amazing. Oh yeah, I'm going to find something for my lady too. I'm going to make this party a success.
Make your party a success when you stop in at Harry's Wine and Spirits in Signal Mountain, East Brainerd Wine and Spirits in East Brainerd, and Riley's Wine and Spirits in Hickson. An automated nuclear missile defense system has suddenly entered into launch mode, and you are the only one who can stop it. Escape Experience Chattanooga. Your team has just been infected with a deadly virus. Your only hope? There, in an abandoned farmhouse. Escape Experience Chattanooga. Handcuffed in a maximum security prison, you have an hour to flee. Escape Experience Chattanooga. These escape scenarios and more at Chattanooga's best escape room, game, and team building platform. Call now. Slots are limited. Register online at escapeexperience.com/Chattanooga. Escape Experience Chattanooga. If your computer is running slow, if you have viruses, if someone called you asking to get into your computer, just say no. If a screen pops up on your computer saying your data is going to be deleted and you have to call this number, don't call it. You need to call Affordable Computers. You wouldn't invite a stranger to come into your house to look at all your books and records, so why would you invite someone to look at your records on your computer? With one wrong click of the mouse, you could be allowing access into your entire system. At Affordable Computers, we can stop them now. Don't be fooled by scammers and pop-ups that tell you must call this number or your hard drive is going to be deleted. You need to call Affordable Computers. Call Affordable Computers now. Microsoft is never going to call you. Microsoft is never going to ask you to call them. If you see that on your screen, you are being scammed. Stop and call Affordable Computers. 423-499-1975. That's 423-499-1975. In Fort Oglethorpe, call 706-858-5888. That's 706-858-5888. Affordable Computers.
Broadcasting live to over 1 million souls in Chattanooga, the Tennessee Valley, and beyond on frequency modulation 92.7. Sean Hannity, 25,000 watts on digital FM 95.3 HD4. CBS Radio News, NASCAR, Bloomberg Markets, David Tulis, streaming strong at NoogaRadio.com. Live on YouTube and Facebook. Nooga Radio, News Talk 92.7. Chattanooga Radio.
You're listening to all new Nooga Radio here at Nooga Radio and NoogaRadio.com. 92.7 FM. The show is Clutch with Keon Rose. If you haven't somehow gathered this by now, I'm Keon Rose. And by the way, and the people on Facebook, the people watching on Facebook Live, they got treated to a story. I had a story that is, you know what? It's for off the air only. You can go to Facebook and you can listen to the story if you want to hear the story. But it's a funny story about the time that my cell phone betrayed me in class. And everybody in Earth got to hear a text ringtone that maybe they didn't all appreciate.
Greatest ringtone. Worst audience.
Great ringtone, worst audience. I think that pretty much sums it up there. So yeah, that's the extra stuff that you get if you tune in on Facebook. So tune in on Facebook. So anyway, we have another wonderful story brewing, right? And it's in the NFC East. It's the Dallas Cowboys. It's Sam Jordan's Dallas Cowboys. And I know you've heard him mention them maybe once or twice. The situation with Des Bryant, which I actually meant to ask him on his show, Sports Talk with Sam Jordan, which comes on every Monday to Friday from 6 to 7. But I wanted to talk about this because Des Bryant, to me, is still one of the best receivers in football. And I have a thing that I believe that a lot of the best receivers, you tend to recognize them from just one of their names, right? AJ, Amari, Julio, Beckham. You hear one name and they're just there. Megatron. They have one name, you know them by it. Well, Dez is one of those guys. You hear Dez, you know who we're talking about. Who else could we possibly be talking about? But Des Bryant is in an interesting situation where he no longer looks like the best wide receiver on his team, and he no longer looks like a top 10 wide receiver in the NFL, and he's being paid like he's a top 3 wide receiver. And so the question is, if you're Dallas, what on earth do you do with Des Bryant? Do you let Des Bryant go? Do you try and restructure the contract? Because I can promise you Des Bryant's not going to go for the restructured contract. Do you do that? Do you convince him to readjust his expectations for your scheme? Because I look at Des Bryant and I see a situation where a guy is basically, he's still trying. He's still going out there. He's still giving effort, but the results aren't there. He's not producing, right? And if he's not producing, you can't pay him like he's still producing. But I wonder, is the production part of the scheme? Is the production part of the chemistry that he has with Dak Prescott? Des says it's the scheme. Des says it's not about Dak. But I've seen Des Bryant's numbers go down as Dak Prescott has emerged as the Dallas Cowboys quarterback. I don't think that they're a good fit together. I don't, because I like Dak a lot. But my big criticism of Dak Prescott is that he's not a big sideline thrower typically. He can make those throws. I'm not here to suggest that somehow Dak Prescott cannot make throws to the sideline. But what I am saying is he doesn't prefer them. And that's where Des runs mostly. Des is your big time target. But Dak likes to make throws over the middle of the field. He's very, very good at intermediate throws. And I think that you miss a lot of what Des Bryant is able to do for you if those are the throws that you're typically making. You look at Tony Romo. Tony Romo would throw the ball anywhere, just about anywhere. And his connection with Des Bryant was very strong. And I think that Dez Bryant could produce like one of the top 3 to 5 receivers in the league if Dez Bryant played in a scheme and with a quarterback that really loved throwing him the ball in situations in which he dominates, which is one-on-one matchups on the outside. Dak Prescott does not like to do this. Jason Garrett, his scheme is not necessarily geared towards that. Despite the fact that Tony Romo had huge successes with it, that wasn't exactly what Jason Garrett wanted. And so here the Cowboys are playing the scheme that they want with the quarterback that they want, and the best, most physically talented wide receiver on their team is not happy, and he's not producing very well. And what I want to know is, what are the Cowboys supposed to do about it? Because Dez Bryant is not coming to you to take less money. And if you come to him to take less money, understand that Dez Bryant, who threatened to hold out a number of times so that he could make more money, and who almost resisted being franchise tagged, that this same Dez Bryant is not about to take a pay cut of any kind. Okay, you're the Dallas Cowboys. What on earth do you do?
You see, they might be in that unfortunate position where they might have to let him walk just because of like the amount that they're going to have to pay him if they're going to keep him. And the way that they like to play the game, it's very suited to Dak Prescott. It's very suited to having a good offensive line in Ezekiel Elliott. And as a result, the more it goes well for them, it gets worse for someone like Dez Bryant, who's like the big play guy who had his best years under of the NFL's best gunslingers. And so it might just be, although they might end up feeling like they're kicking themselves if they see him go somewhere else that can use him and that place pays him and he does great there, it might still end up being the better situation for them if they let him go.
I hear you. Here's the risk I think you run if you let him go. He stays in the division. It's scary because, okay, so the Giants have Beckham. When Beckham's healthy, that guy's probably arguably best receiver in the league. But you have the other 2 teams in the division with solid quarterbacks, right? Carson Wentz is really good, and Kirk Cousins is good. He's good. And the best receiver that the Eagles have right now is Nelson Aguilar, and they're in the playoffs. And the Redskins are competitive at the very least. Their best receiver is Jamison Crowder. If you gave Kirk Cousins or Carson Wentz a shot to throw the ball to Dez Bryant, they jump on it. Absolutely, they jump on it. They pay whatever it costs to get that guy in the building because they don't have anybody that looks and plays like that in their building, right? And so you're the Cowboys. You shoot yourself in the foot because I feel like Carson Wentz is the gunslinger type that you just mentioned that Tony Romo is one of the best gunslingers to ever do it. I completely agree. And Carson Wentz is in that same mold of quarterback to me. Cousins has got a little bit of gunslinger in him too. Kirk Cousins has had a number of games now. Biggest fan and biggest supporter has been Brett Favre, the absolute greatest gunslinger to ever do it. So if you go from that particular angle, inside of the division, that is a massive mistake. And would you pay Dez Bryant? Would it not be worth the money to pay Dez Bryant just so that your rivals don't have him? Because Dez is still in his prime. Like, we treat Dez Bryant like he's over the hill or he's old. Like, no, Dez Bryant isn't 30 yet. You know what I mean? He's still in his 20s. That's scary. If Dez Bryant stays in the division, to me, that is the only situation that can go wrong. That is the worst of all worlds if you're the Dallas Cowboys, because I think that Dez can still play.
I will say that is a big risk on 2 counts. One, because both the Eagles and the Redskins, they like to throw the ball down the field. And second, because that feels like a thing that a person like a Dez Bryant might do, is seek out a divisional rival. Because, like, if you've ever seen how, like, upset he'll be when things aren't going right, it's because he cares, like, that much. And so I could easily see him being in that sort of same situation as like a Brett Favre, where he's like, they let me go. And I was like, I want to be on any team that plays them. The Vikings played the Packers twice.
Yeah, no, it's you have a guy here who's just mad petty. Like the pettiest guy, arguably, in sports, Dez Bryant. Right? Like the back and forth between him and Josh Norman. This guy is absolutely petty. And by the way, How annoying do the Redskins become if somehow you have Des Bryant and Josh Norman on the same football team? Do they not become the most annoying team in the NFL?
I mean, that's great because just like they both have that same reputation from different positions.
It's like they're both the ultimate. If they're not on your team, you hate them guys. Like I used to hate Josh Norman, and then he joined the Redskins, and now I love Josh Norman. Josh Norman is my favorite player on the whole football team. I feel very similarly about Dez. It's like Dez, you hate him because he's not on your team. When Dez is on your team, you love Dez Bryant. And making Dez Bryant happy is not a hard thing to do. Just throw him the football. So for me, I feel like the NFC East could be infinitely more enjoyable. Infinitely more enjoyable. Because I don't think Dez Bryant leaving Dallas really hurts Dallas offensively. It hurts Dallas defensively if he stays in the division. And it might be worth paying Dez Bryant whatever he wants just to make sure that he doesn't become a weapon for somebody else. Because I don't agree with a lot of analysts. I think Mina Kimes over at ESPN for one, she believes that Dez Bryant's no longer a top receiver. And I don't agree with that. And I say this because I think if you have a case against a wide receiver becoming the MVP of the league, the case is this. Wide receivers do not put themselves in a position to score. Wide receivers need to be put in a position to score by coaches, coordinators, and quarterbacks. Like those are the three people that control the destiny of any wide receiver who's any good at all. And your Dez Bryant, like your production's low. Okay, well, Dez Bryant doesn't run slower. His hands haven't gotten worse. His football IQ is about the same as it's always been. So what is the issue? What is the difference here with Dez Bryant? Oh, it's the offense. The offense has changed a little bit. It's the quarterback has changed a little bit. And that's going to make an effect on you. I don't think that Dez Bryant necessarily has an option or an opportunity to necessarily make these kinds of plays for himself.
Yeah, I am interested, though, if from the Cowboys' perspective, the people who actually have to give out the money, are they willing to make that kind of decision that might really be a wiser decision for them in the long term to keep him away from the Redskins and Eagles and then maybe even the Giants, as opposed to just sort of letting him go? I'm not sure. Like, it's hard to say. I think it makes sense, that position, but I'm not sure if they would do it.
That's what is left to be seen. You're listening to Clutch with Keon Rose here on 92.7 FM, all new Nooga Radio and NoogaRadio.com. By the way, we have an update on at least one of our stories from yesterday. We still have not figured out what it is that happened with Cameron Petway and the Auburn Tigers. Now, the Tigers are saying that Cameron Petway is not playing in the Peach Bowl because he has an injured shoulder. Fair enough. That explains why he's not playing in the game. It does not explain why he's not with the team in Atlanta. And it does not explain why he's... The quote that was released by somebody, the quote that escaped Auburn, was that he's no longer welcome back at the University of Auburn. That question still remains unanswered. But what happened to James Harrison? We wanted to know, because it seems like James Harrison had the entire Steelers locker room turn on him. And we wanted to know, what did James Harrison do that caused that to happen? And we have an answer, which is this: that many Steelers players highlighted a number of things that happened with James Harrison. Paul Zeese is reporting that Harrison would leave the stadium as soon as he found out he was inactive. He would miss practices. He wouldn't go to film meetings. And he would rarely come to the locker room. And they said he wouldn't visit Ryan Shazier, the injured Ryan Shazier, in the hospital. So just basically, James Harrison for the last 5 to 6 weeks has just been an awful teammate.
Yes, not only like with Ryan Shazier being injured, that became like a rallying cry for the Steelers. Visiting an injured teammate, that just seems like the kind of thing a good person does.
Right.
And like, I initially it was just sort of, it was Mike Pouncey, and he said that the whole locker room felt this way. And now we're getting more and more details from different players in the Steelers organization to suggest that it really is, as he says, that the whole Steelers, they don't like him anymore.
Yeah. I mean, I still don't think he's burned his legacy to the ground, but I don't think that the city of Pittsburgh is ever going to love James Harrison the way that had he finished out his career, had he been a guy that was, a stable locker room anchor, had he been that kind of guy, even though he wasn't getting the playing time that he wanted, even though he wasn't getting the minutes that he wanted, had he been that guy, I think he would be embraced by that locker room still, and he would be embraced by the city of Pittsburgh. The city of Pittsburgh is a city, they're blue collar, they do what you have to do, they put your nose to the grindstone and go to work. And James Harrison has always embodied that, and for some strange reason, he doesn't look anything like that now.
No, I feel like he could have left the team not like this, obviously, and still have been like, of course, irrational people will always burn your jersey. That's just a thing they do. But as a whole, his teammates would still be on his side and defending him. The average person isn't going to say, oh, this player who feels like he could play more than he's being allowed to play betrayed his team. Nobody with an objective mind would say that. But to do something like this, it can't take away the accomplishments, but it's going to affect his whole reputation greatly for the negative.
I completely agree. And here we are. We're going to do our picks as fast as we possibly can, our NFL picks. Browns Steelers. Do the Browns... No, they don't.
Yeah, it's just next one. Steelers.
Next, Packers Lions. Packers 7-8, Lions 8-7. Both of them playing for absolutely nothing. Who you got?
I guess Lions, just because the Packers are going to be running out there with the man Brett Hundley.
Brett Hundley, the homie Hundley. I'm going to go with the Lions as well. I like Matthew Stafford more than I like Brett Hundley. Lions. The Redskins are 7-8, trying to get to whole 8-8. And the Giants are 2-13, and they are the Giants, and they have Eli Apple, the cancer. Who you got?
Redskins there. The Giants, they showed something against the Eagles with Nick Foles, and they lost that game 29-34, which is pretty good. But then they went and had the goose egg against the Cardinals. So Redskins for me.
As well, I think the Redskins have a lot of pride to play for. I think that the Redskins just want to look good for the fan base and really just sort of look good floating into next year. Eagles and Cowboys. The Cowboys don't have anything to play for. The Eagles have already clinched, but they hate each other, and they hate each other lots. Who you got?
I'm going to go with the Eagles here just because I think they can get the level of productivity they need from Nick Foles to beat at least the Cowboys here. Although I will say, if the Cowboys win this, it's going to be really hard to have hope for the playoffs as an Eagles fan.
I would think so, and that's why I'm going to go with the Cowboys. I think the Cowboys want to make sure that there's hopelessness in Philadelphia. I think they like doing that. I also think that having Ezekiel Elliott back always makes Dak Prescott better, takes some pressure off of him. He doesn't have to be the primary playmaker. I don't think that that's a fair position to ask him to be in. Jets, Patriots. Jets, again, playing for absolutely nothing. Patriots have already clinched. Who you got?
Patriots, because they're going to have to start. If they lose this and the Steelers win, then they'll get the home field advantage. And if they meet in the AFC Championship, suddenly it's in Heinz Field. Patriots.
Patriots as well. I completely agree with everything that you just said. We're trying to keep it trucking here. We're running out of time. The Bears and the Vikings. The Bears are the Bears, but Mitchell, don't call me Mitchell Trubisky, looks promising. The Vikings have already clinched. Who you got?
I think the Vikings will start. If they don't, it'll be different. But if they are starting, then I'm going to go Vikings because they have a really good defense. That's going to make it hard for Mitchell Trubisky.
I don't think the Vikings keep all of their starters in for the whole game, but I'm going to go with the Bears on this one. I don't think that the Vikings have anything to play for. They're pretty much locked into their spot. The Texans and the Colts. Awful plays awfuler. Who you got?
Colts, but only because DeAndre Hopkins had the calf injury.
Fair enough. I didn't realize that. I'm going to go with the Colts as well because Jacoby Brissett greater than whatever quarterback the Texans are going to be playing. The 49ers and the Rams. The Rams, again, have also clinched. The 49ers not playing for a whole lot, just their pride and to see what they can get out of Jimmy Garoppolo. Who you got?
Well, considering the Rams are going to do a lot of benching, I'm going to go with the 49ers. Garoppolo's look pretty good.
All right. We're going to go quick fire on this one. Raiders, Chargers.
Chargers.
I'm going Chargers too. Cardinals, Seahawks.
Seahawks.
I'm going Seahawks as well, though. That's not going to be enough to get them in the playoffs. Chiefs, Broncos.
Chiefs.
I'm going to go Broncos with the upset. Just for the lulls. Panthers, Falcons.
Falcons.
Falcons, we already discussed that one. We also discussed Bengals, Ravens, but we'll just say it again. I'm going Ravens.
Same, obviously.
Bills and Dolphins.
Bills, I can't count on Jay Cutler.
Fair enough. I'm going to go Dolphins, though, because I just feel like the Bills are too up and down, and I don't trust them. Saints, Bucks. Saints. And Jaguars, Titans is the last game on the docket, and the one we're going to. Who you got?
The Jaguars.
I'm going with the Jaguars as well. I'm not overly trusting of this offensive system, and I'm trying to jump over to our college football page here so we can see if we can choose some of the last of these SEC games. Wake Forest and Texas A&M. You know nothing about either of these teams, but just pick somebody here for me.
I'm just gonna go Wake Forest because right next to the biggest Longhorns fan I know.
Fair enough. I'm also gonna go Wake Forest because I hate the Aggies. And then the bowl games that should play before we get back here. We've got tonight. We've got Washington State and Michigan State. I'm gonna go with Washington State. And Stanford and TCU. I like TCU. I do. I know what David Shaw's got in Stanford, but I like it. You've been listening to Clutch with Keon Rose here on all new Nooga Radio at NoogaRadio.com on 92.7 FM. Remember, folks, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. Stay clutch and stick around. Two Millennials Talk next.
The Tennessee Valley's news talk leader, Nooga Radio.